live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Monday, August 8th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game as well. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, tonight in baseball, it could be maybe the number of hits, the number of runs scored, the number of stolen bases, or something like the number of runs a pitcher gives up or the number of strikeouts that a pitcher has. Then you're going to choose an amount of money you want to enter into the contest. And if you're correct, you could win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all right. But the main reason I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where you can join in with your buddies and you could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I could see what you're playing, you could see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who's won 3 days in a row is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody's riding it out together. So stop what you're doing now and download the Sleeper app, play in their new over-under game, have some fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNBets, and Sleeper will automatically match the first deposit you make up to $100. So again, go to the description in this podcast below, sleeper.com/FTNBets, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so you're going to have to see Sleeper's terms of use for those details. So today we're going to keep going with our NFL betting previews. Let's see, we finished up the NFC North last time, so now we're going to go over to the AFC North, and we might as well start off with our defending AFC champion, Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals were 10-7 last year. They won the division, and it was one of the tightest divisions in all of football. Every team in the division was separated by 2 games or less. So Pittsburgh was 9-7-1. That tie proved to be huge for them, as it was the reason they got into the playoffs. Bunch of teams sitting at 9-8. They were 9-7-1, so they squeaked into the playoffs there and knocked a couple people out. Cleveland and Baltimore were a couple of those teams that got knocked out late in the season. They both finished the season at 8-9. So the worst teams in this division were 8-9, and the winner of this division, the Cincinnati Bengals, was 10-7. And we expect something pretty similar, I guess, to happen this year. So we'll talk about that when we talk about the division in a minute. But let's start with just the Cincinnati Bengals here. Let's see. Our Jeff Ratcliffe has them projected for 10.7 wins for the 2021 season. So slightly better than what they did last year at 10-7. More likely to get to 11 wins there. The number that's out there in the market, the consensus number out there in the market, is somewhere between 9.5 and 10 wins. So you look at 9.5, which is the number that we see on most of the sites out there. Most books have it at MGM, PointsBet, FanDuel, all have it at 9.5 wins. The best number you can play on an over for 9.5 wins, which is what we would have at a 10.7 projection, -125. BetMGM and PointsBet have it there at over 9.5 wins. That's the best place to play the Cincinnati Bengals. The under on FanDuel is +110. That's the best place to play the under there. I don't really like the under. I do think they're going to get to 10 wins and make the playoffs again this year. So the over would be the way we want to play it. It's -125 to go over 9.5 on BetMGM and PointsBet. So that's the best price that you can get. DraftKings has it right at 10 wins. So if they end at 10 wins, you're going to get a push on it. If they get over 10 wins, they get to that 11 or 12 or whatever, any number beyond that. They're paying +105. But remember, in order to cash on a 10, you got to get it to 11 to get that +105. So it is a little bit of a higher bump up there. I still like the over 9.5 wins on BetMGM and PointsBet, even though it's -125. I still like that better if you're going to play one of those over numbers. And I do think we have an edge on the over number. So over 9.5 wins, Cincinnati Bengals, MGM, BetMGM or PointsBet, -125. That's the way to play it there. Cincinnati Bengals, will they make the playoffs? The best number we can get on yes, the Bengals will make the playoffs, -130 over on DraftKings. No, they will not make the playoffs is +118 on FanDuel is the best number you can get there. I do expect them to make the playoffs. Like I said, I'd rather take the over 9.5 wins. Remember last year, you needed at least 10 wins to get in the playoffs. Well, to guarantee that you were in the playoffs, one or two teams from each division did make it in with 9 wins, but there were also just as many teams, or actually more teams that didn't make it in with 9 wins than the ones that did. So if you want to guarantee a playoff spot, you probably need that 10 wins. I'll take a slightly better payout on the minus 125 for the Cincinnati Bengals to get up to over 9.5 wins there. But if you want to play the playoffs, minus 130 on DraftKings. Again, DraftKings has this number at 10. So if you want to play that minus 130 number for them to make the playoffs, it's basically a way that you could get very close to the over 9.5 number that we're getting on BetMGM and PointsBet over on DraftKings, because it's basically the same thing. So now let's go on and talk about the division numbers. To win the AFC North, the best number we can get on the Cincinnati Bengals is plus 200. PointsBet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Unibet all have it at plus 200. It's basically between plus 180 and plus 200 for them to win the AFC North. They are not the favorites. I repeat, they are not the favorites to win the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens are actually a slightly smaller number than the Cincinnati Bengals are. You can get the Ravens in like the plus 160 to plus 180 range. So just a little bit. No, I'm sorry. Plus 140 to plus 160 range. So 160 is the high. I thought 160 was the low here. Plus 160 is the high number there for the Baltimore Ravens, whereas Cincinnati, you can get at plus 200 here. So again, wide open division. There were only 2 games that separated top to bottom last year. I don't know if we'll get it that close again this year, but I do expect there to be 2 or 3 teams, vying for the crown in this division here. So let's see, what else do we have here? Again, we talked about Baltimore plus 160, Cincinnati plus 200. Cleveland is plus 300. Cleveland actually got knocked down to closer to, I think it was plus like 150 the other day, or plus 180 after the 6-game suspension was announced for Deshaun Watson. But then the NFL is appealing that, and now people are afraid it's going to wind up being longer. So their numbers shot back up to 300. It's kind of yo-yoed around, and it's kind of yo-yoed around the other numbers in the division too. Because I mean, think about it. There's only 4 teams in the division. The Steelers right now are 10-1 to win this division. So people are basically writing them off. The other 3 teams, though, all have a chance to win. So if you think that, well, obviously Deshaun Watson playing would have improved Cleveland's chances. But then if it's improving Cleveland's chances, it also has a, negative effect on the chances of teams like the Ravens and the Bengals. So you got to take all that into account. So right now, I think things have kind of settled. Baltimore plus 160, Cincinnati plus 200, and then Cleveland's around plus 300. So those 3 teams are the ones with a shot. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of a long shot at 10-1, 11-1 to win this division. So that's the way it's working out in the AFC North. I do think plus 200 is a decent number on the Cincinnati Bengals. I wouldn't mind putting some money on that. PointsBet is the place you can get that done there. So let's see. Cincinnati to win the entire AFC. So Cincinnati overall has the 6 shortest odds to win the AFC. So there are 5 teams ahead of them. Buffalo, I think most people would agree with. Kansas City, I think most people would agree with. Let's see. We have the LA Chargers, the Denver Broncos, and the Baltimore Ravens are all shorter prices to win the AFC than the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals are. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the Bengals last year, it's not like they were a lock and everybody thought they were going to make it there all season. They played very well. I'm not saying that they can't play very well again. I think it's a decent number here at 12-1 for them, because I don't think that they should be the 6th team here. Probably maybe 4th or 3rd. I mean, you can make an argument that they're right in there with all those other teams. I do think they're behind Buffalo. I do think they're behind Kansas City, but the Chargers, Denver, and Baltimore, I think all 4 of those teams are right in there. Any one of them could be 3rd. Any one of them could be 6th. And I don't really think I would argue with the rankings all that much. So plus 1,200, I think, is a decent number. FanDuel, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Unibet, where you can get that. It's plus 1,100 or 11-1 on every other, sports book that's out there. So it's not like there's a lot of variance in this number. It's either 11-1 or 12-1. That's all you're getting. And 12-1 on FanDuel, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Uni. Better place to play it if you want to play it there. I don't think that's a bad way to go about it. Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl, 22-1. Listen, I know they were there last year, but it's not easy to get there. It's not easy to get back there. There are guys that have been there and never got back there in their career, and they'll tell you that as well. I don't think Joe Burrow wants to be one of those guys, but, again, I don't think this is an easy path for them to get there. 22-1 plus 2,200 on DraftKings and Caesars is where it is for Cincinnati. There are 11, 10 or 11. I think there are 10 teams ahead of Cincinnati. The 5 that we mentioned in the AFC, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys are all shorter prices to win the Super Bowl than the Cincinnati Bengals are. I mean, listen, Cincinnati was there last year. There are 10 teams that are a shorter price than they are. Plus 2,200, not the craziest number there. Although, like I said, I think they did kind of catch lightning in a bottle a little bit last year, and I don't expect them to do it again this year. So I'm not betting on Cincinnati Super Bowl, but I don't think it's a bad number if anybody out there wants to. So there you go. That wraps it up for the team stuff. Like I said, I think some of these Cincinnati numbers are very interesting. Really like that plus 200 for them to win the AFC North. I think that's my favorite number. And remember, you can get that over at PointsBet. If you don't have a PointsBet account, or if you don't have an account at any of the sportsbook partners that we have, go over to ftnbets.com/sportsbooks. You will see all of the books that we work with there, the best offers that they have out there. Some of them have, deposit bonus matches. Other ones have $1,000 risk-free first bets. Take advantage of all of these. I tell everybody now, when you use our prop shop, it's going to give you the best number that's out there in the market and all the books that we partner with. So what I think everybody should do, if you're listening to this podcast, if you follow FTN Bets, get over to that sportsbook page now and take advantage of all that free money to start building your bankroll so you have it for football season. And then the reason why you want to have outs at all these different books is when you go to the prop shop and you type in something like we're about to do in a minute here when we talk some Joe Burrow season-long props, you type in Joe Burrow's name, it gives you whatever prop you're looking for, and then you can go find what book has the best price on it. This way, you're always getting the most bang for your buck wherever you're betting. And like I said, you get to take advantage of all the bonuses. It is one of the best ways to help yourself be a more profitable sports bettor. So get over to ftnbets.com/sportsbooks, sign up for whatever books that you haven't signed up for yet, and take advantage of the free money that they're offering. So you have some extra ammo for when football season rolls around and you want to put some money on some of the games that we have going on there. All right, so now that we talked about the team props, let's go into some of the individual props. And the first one we're going to talk about, the first guy, is the man, the myth, the legend, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow to win MVP, 13-1 over on Caesars. It's 12-1 on most of the other books out there. So 13-1 is the best price out there, and it is pretty much in line with what everybody else has at 12-1 there. So Caesars 13-1, Joe Burrow MVP. I don't really have him as my favorite for it, but whatever. If you're interested, 13-1 over there. Most passing yards. I kind of like this a little bit for Joe Burrow. It's 12-1. He threw for 4,661 yards last year, and he only played in 16 games. So if he would have played that extra game and he would have got his normal 280 something yards, he would have been at like 4,950-ish yards or something like that. There were 2 guys, I think, who threw for over 5,000 last year. But again, he's not far off from that, right? So as long as he is in that mix and close to it, it's not a horrible idea to put a little bit of money on this at 12-1. The number for Joe Burrow passing yards is 4,350. In 2020, he only played in 10 games. He averaged about 268 yards per game there. Threw for like 2,700 yards. But again, if you stretch that out for all the games that he would have been, if he would have played there, he would have been over 4,000 yards, probably pretty close to this 4,300 number here. Last year, he played in 16 games and he threw for 4,611 yards. Like I said, if he would have played in all the games, it probably would have been closer to 4,900 plus, which means that we have a cushion of about 2 games here on this number. So if we can get Joe Burrow to play in 15 games this year, then he's probably likely to go over this number. So again, I do think there's a little bit of value when you look at some of these numbers, and a guy could miss a game or 2 and still go over it. Those are the ones that I want to bet on. So Joe Burrow, I don't think is crazy if you want to bet on his over passing yards here. I actually like that a lot more than the over passing touchdowns. He threw 34 touchdowns last year, and we all thought that he had an unsustainably high touchdown rate last year with the way things were going. This year, the number is 33.5, 34.5, over 33.5 on FanDuel, under 34.5 on DraftKings. I like that under 34.5 on DraftKings more than I like the over 33.5 on FanDuel. Again, most of these things, 2/3 of these season-long props tend to come in under anyway. And this is a number that I think is probably priced to perfection. So if he misses any games, or if he just doesn't have as good a season, or if they just, wind up being ahead in a lot of games and are running a lot more this year than they did, yeah, I could see a lot of ways why Joe Burrow doesn't get over this number. So I like the under on his passing touchdowns. Speaking of running a little bit more this year, let's take a look at Joe Mixon's numbers. 1,050 rushing yards, over minus 150, over under minus 115, really. The over minus 115 on DraftKings, under minus 115 on BetMGM at 1,050 rushing yards here. So Joe Burrow in 2018, let's see, he played 14 games, ran for over 1,100 yards. 2019, he played 16 games, ran for over 1,100 yards. 2020, he only played 6 games, ran for like 400 yards and got hurt, but he was on pace for close to 70 yards a game, which would have equated to over 1,000, over 1,100 yards again if he would have stayed healthy there. And then last year, 1,205 yards for him. So Joe Mixon at 1,050 yards. If Joe Mixon stays healthy, he's very likely to go over this number. Again, he did it in 3 of the last 4 years. He was on pace to do it in the other year before he got hurt in game 6. So again, 3 of the last 4 years, 75% of the time, he's gone over this number. I still like the over here at minus 115. Over 1,050 rushing yards for Joe Mixon. Minus 115 on DraftKings. I think that's a good number to take. I like that a lot better than the touchdown number. The touchdown number is over 9.5 on FanDuel, under 10.5 on DraftKings. So yes, he did have 13 touchdowns last year. So everyone's like, oh, 13, you got 3 extra touchdowns. He could regress. He's still going to go over, but he never had more than 8 any other year of his career. So again, last year, the offense was great. They were humming. Obviously they have so many weapons there. You can't concentrate on one. Like there's a lot of excuses. I understand them all and whatever. The guy had a big touchdown year last year. I'm not saying he's going to definitely have regression this year, but there is a chance he does because he never had more than 8 before. The number is 9.5, 10. So the number is right in between. The number is a good number. It's right where it should be. And remember, we don't have to bet every number. If we don't feel like we have an edge on one side or another, we can just leave it and walk. And I think that's what we do with the Joe Mixon touchdown number here. Leave it alone. If you're going to bet him, bet the over on the rushing yards. I would actually probably bet the under if I had to on touchdowns, but I'm just going to avoid it altogether right there. So let's see. Let's go talk about the next guy here. Let's talk about the 2 wide receivers. We'll start with T. Higgins, and then we'll move on to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins catches 75.5. DraftKings has the over at minus 120. 74 was the rookie year catch number that he had. He had more catches his rookie year than he did last year. So he's never had 75 or more. Can he take a step forward? Yeah, I guess he could take a step forward here. But those targets have to come from somewhere, and pretty much everybody's back, right? Like this offense, all the main pieces are there. You still have T. Higgins, you still have Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd's still there in the slot. They did switch out tight ends, but I don't really think that's a massive deal because, the tight end's going to get a certain number of targets one way or another. It's not like CJ Uzomah got a massive amount of targets and Hayden Hurst isn't going to. I feel like that's going to be kind of a wash. So really, I don't know where the extra targets are going to come for a guy like T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, really, for that matter. This is one of those offenses where, we don't have a lot of projecting to do where, there's targets up for grabs. It could go here. It could go there. Like, you got to figure they're going to, whatever they did last year worked pretty well. You got to figure they're going to kind of do it again. It's not all of a sudden going to be some massive shift unless somebody gets hurt. We're not going to see any massive shift in the usage of the running game or where the targets went in the passing game. When you have everybody back, you basically just keep humming along. So, I just don't see any reason to bet the over here. If anything, I would be on the under, but really, like I said, this is a good number. So we're going to be avoiding it. T. Higgins had 1,091 yards his rookie year. He had 908 yards last year. The number is right in the middle. He averages 999.5 yards per season so far in 2 seasons in the NFL. His prop number this year, 999.5 yards. So again, most likely I would lean to the under here. He's got to stay healthy, but at the same point in time, I think this is the perfect number for him. Nothing really good for us to bet on. Both years in the NFL, he had 6 receiving touchdowns. The touchdown number is 6.5 for him. The over is minus 118 on FanDuel. You could play an under 7.5 touchdowns, a higher number on DraftKings and BetMGM. And I think that would be the way that I would play it if I played anything. So I hate to say this because I do love T. Higgins and I do think he's a top 15 wide receiver this year in the NFL, for fantasy at least. I think the only thing I like with T. Higgins here is under 7.5 touchdowns is probably my favorite bet. And again, you can get that on DraftKings or BetMGM at minus 115. So let's talk about his running mate on the other side now, Jamar Chase. Chase, 84.5 is the number for his receptions, minus 115 over and under on DraftKings there. 1,210 yards is the low number for his receiving yards this year. FanDuel has that at a -112. I actually like that number a little bit. 1,455 yards is what he had last year. So even if he misses 2 or 3 games, he can get over that 1,210 yard mark in, 14 or 15 games of the season. So even if he misses 1 or 2, or if he has a bad game, or if they play one game in driving rain, sleet, and snow where they don't throw the ball a lot or something, and it affects his numbers, I still think he can get you an over there if he stays healthy. So I like the Jamar Chase over on the receiving yards. Like I said, I'm staying away from the T. Higgins ones, but I do like the over on Jamar Chase receiving yards. I'm not touching the catches, though. We had 81 catches last year. The number is 84.5 this year. Again, I just don't see it. If you told me T. Higgins wasn't back and they didn't really get another good wide receiver on the outside, and we could project that his volume is going to go up and maybe that's how he's going to make up the extra 3 or 4 catches. Okay, that's a narrative I can get behind. That's a legitimate stat-based thing that we can kind of see where it's going to affect them. With everybody back here, though, I don't see where the extra targets are coming from any of these guys. So they're all priced a little bit better than they were last year for the number of catches. Like I said, if anything, I would shade to the under, but I think they're both good numbers, so I'm not going to be touching the catch number there. And then the touchdown number for Jamar Chase, I thought this was the number I wanted to play, but then I saw the number, and I'm like, I can't play this number. Like, it is 10.5 touchdowns. That is a lot of touchdowns to project for a wide receiver. There's a couple of running backs who project for double-digit touchdowns. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, maybe a guy like James Conner, But, man, I cannot take 10.5 because, again, it's receiving touchdowns, too. So you don't even get the benefit of if they do an end around or something like that for him. Like, he's got to get to 11 touchdowns to cash this number. It's, he had 13 last year, so I'm not saying he can't do it, but it's just, again, it feels like another one of those numbers that's priced to perfection. So I don't want to bet against it because I know he can do it, but I also don't want to be betting on it because if anything goes wrong, he's not going to get there. And it's just not a number that I have a lot of confidence in there. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up. We had a lot to talk about here with the Cincinnati Bengals, and we're going to do the rest of the AFC North all week. And make sure to check out all of the videos that we've done, all of the podcasts that we've done already. AFC East, NFC East, AFC South, NFC South, and NFC North are already done. So we're down to the last 3 divisions here, which is good because that means we're getting closer and closer to football season. Remember, you can get over to FTN Bets, FTN Daily, or FTN Fantasy right now. If you're looking for your season-long fantasy football drafts, head to FTN Fantasy. If you're looking for DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks, all of those things, all those daily games, you can get over to FTN Daily. And if you're looking to do some betting like I'm doing here, you guys can get over to the FTN Bet site. Use promo code Benny. Here's the trick. You ready? Everybody write this down. Benny, Benny, and you can save 20% off a subscription on any one of those sites over there. And remember, go down to this podcast description as well. You'll see the link for the sportsbook stuff so you guys can take advantage of that free money. You'll see the link for our group over on Sleeper so you can take advantage of the free money that they have over there as well. Lots of different ways for you guys to make money. I appreciate you hanging out with me, listening to the podcast. Make sure you check out the other episodes if there's any other teams that you're looking for. And with that, this is Benny Ricciardi signing off for the FTN Betscast. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.